Okay, so it's 12:05 and I believe we can start now. I would like to welcome all of you to our Global Partnership Series Session 2, which we are focusing on our faculty. So just a few housekeeping. This meeting will be recorded, and for the meantime, kindly stay muted as we would not want any feedbacks or interruptions during the presentation. You'll be allowed to unmute and speak during the question and answer session if needed. And in the meantime, you can still use the reactions. You can use the emoticons to show your excitement and approval as the presentations are going on. There will also be question and answer sessions. Please use the chat box and the Q&A sessions as well, the box as well. I would like to start with the land acknowledgement. We work, study, and live in a region south of the Fraser River, which overlaps with the unceded traditional and ancestral lands of the indigenous Kwantlen, Musqueam, Katsi, Simiamu, Tuasin, Kaikat, and Kwiketlam people. Today's event is part of KPU's 16th Annual International Focus Week, our celebration of International Education Week. IFW highlights global diversity, cooperation, and transformative impact of international education. This year features activities across all campuses. Check the website for the full schedule. And we are sharing the link so you can see what is happening across the campuses. So for today, we are going to know more about why we are doing the GP series, the Global Partnership Series. We are going to hear more about faculty mobility, and then we are going to hear very exciting experiences of some of our faculty who have partaken in these opportunities that are available through the Office of Global Engagement. We will later be followed by question and answers and what next we have in store. I'd like you to meet the team behind the Office of Global Engagement, and we want to know why the GP series. I am Ikia, and I would invite my colleague, Honey, to tell us why we have the GP series.
Hey everyone, it's a wonderful to see everyone here, and this is a perfect time to introduce our GP series. And I think the first GP series happened last month, and we were so happy to welcome everyone. And I see some common faces again. So this entire idea of starting a global partnership series was to build shared understanding of internationalization practices in KPU. So this is a space where you can come together, discuss, and we explore the options of collaboration, impact, and conversation. We have different areas which we'll be discussing as we go ahead. And so GP series is a place which we are trying to make it as frequent as possible, where you guys can come and we will discuss all the ways of avenues of development, not just for us, but for the larger community in KPU in general. So as for our work, it is spread across various areas right now here. I would like to call Yelena to give us more detail about the very particular focus today, which is the faculty mobility.
Thank you, Honey. And I'm so glad to see new faces and people interested in this work. Christian, welcome again. And I'm so happy to see more faculty members joining these series, because this is the idea of this series, to bring our work to the faculty so everyone sees what we're doing. We are supporting faculty in engaging globally. We're connecting them with teaching, research, partnership opportunities around the world. We help faculty access the resources that they need for international work, and we also encourage them to take on experiences that expand their perspectives, their professional growth. What we do is we promote and facilitate a wide range of international opportunities. For example, those offered through our global partners, through national international mobility programs. One key example is the Faculty Mobility for Partnership Building program funded by Global Affairs Canada. We have Fabricio here today, who will talk about his experience. But this program actually supports short-term teaching or research in Mexico, Latin America, and the Caribbean. KPU is also a member of Academics Without Borders, and we offer faculty the chance to volunteer on educational capacity building projects in low and middle income countries around the world, with travel and in-country expenses typically covered. We work with our partner institutions to enable opportunities such as, for example, Erasmus Plus mobility for our faculty, where we have to work with an EU institution, also to enable their access to international weeks at our partner institutions, other global engagement events. We work really closely with our partners to identify and share these opportunities with you so you can access them on our partnerships database and webpage. We also have internal funding pools, the Mobility Internationalization Fund, MIF, and KPU's Global SDGs Fund. And you will hear today from Sue and Cindy their experiences with these mobility initiatives because they are covering field schools, partnership development, COIL. That's collaborative online international learning projects. You will hear about it a lot during the day. The next funding cycle opens in January. We will start applications. We will receive applications up until the deadline of March 10th, 2026, and we will share more about this in January as we start promoting these opportunities. And overall, our team role is to guide faculty toward meaningful global experiences and support them through every step of the process. And I'll pass it on to Hani to introduce our speakers today.
Thank you, Yelena. So moving on to the highlight of today, which is our faculty spotlight session that we have arranged today. We are going to celebrate and discuss and also get to know more about our 3-star speakers. But today we have arranged this entire presentation in a Pecha model, and I'm hoping and assuming everyone knows about it. But just to give a quick overview about what Pecha is, it's a fast visual first storytelling format. We'll have 20 slides running for 20 seconds, and the slides will auto-advance, keeping the pace crisp and engaging. So that is how we're gonna see the beautiful world our 3-star speakers have been exploring so far. So moving on to the star presenters of the day. To start with, I would like to welcome Sue Fairburn. Sue Fairburn is a design educator and researcher who works between the boundaries of the body, society, and environments. She holds postgraduate degrees in environment physiology and environmental design, and it is at the Wilson School of Design that she has found the space and support to fully interdisciplinary engage in her teaching and research. So her design projects fit within the context of environmental extremes and future resilience, and her focus has been to feed creativity and resilience and informs conceptual shifts in how we live in. So Sue, I hand over the baton to you to give us a larger picture of all your experiences so far. Thank you.
Thanks very much, honey. I'm just gonna, there we go. Okay, here we are. This is going to be intense. So I'm going to start with the intense sunset or sunrise that actually greeted me as I flew from Vancouver to Delhi last September. It all begins with anticipation. So every international experience starts with anticipation and preparation. I think the slides are going to advance automatically. Yes, thank you. My journey took me to the Himalayas, to Saitoli village, which is in the upper Uttarakhand region. I was invited as on a residency titled the Monsoon Residency. So getting a sense of where you're going, you can read, you can talk to people, you can look at data, and this is how I mainly prepared myself. It's always interesting in an unfamiliar environment. In this situation, once you touch down, you then start to slow down. And it's at this moment we were on the train from Delhi, New Delhi, to Karkogan, which essentially was an 8-hour journey that gave us time to observe the villages, the villagers, and to really sense the environment we were entering. From there, we had the opportunity to start to settle in. There's something very important about when you think about faculty mobility that you think you're always mobile, but it's really important to be still and to stay and to take the time. On landing in the Himalayas, we had a chance to do that. So I spent 3 weeks there, and I'm now going to tell you a little bit more about that experience. You can prepare. In this case, I actually had one of my design students make some fieldware for me, and that was very effective against burrs. It wasn't so effective against leeches. So you are always in an environment where there are different aspects that you have to learn to sort of engage with, whether they're invited or not. I think that's part of the process, is really figuring out what it's like to be on foot. There's nothing like being there in the immersive experience, having the opportunity to walk around, observe, listen, and speak with the people that live there. Here's an example of a vernacular architecture in the region, and you see both the agriculture and also the way that the structure is set up and the surroundings. You also get a sense there's power, there's satellite. So this is a modern society that's evolving in very, very specific ways. We were there for the monsoon residency, and it did not disappoint. So they call them cloudbursts there, which is like an atmospheric river. And because there's been so much development, there's been a lot of deforestation. You're seeing a lot of landslides, and you have these experiences where all of a sudden you can't be mobile in the same way. So we had to really factor that in. As a designer, obviously color and materiality and exploration are a big aspect of why what I was doing there. In this situation, I took samples of materials that I could show people what the school was about, technical textiles. I also took a lot of ways to capture inspiration and to learn what the environment was about. So you'll see these images on the bottom, a thermograph, which captures the environmental temperatures. There's nothing like being with the family members and with engaging with children where you are. In this situation, it was a specific request of our hosts that we visit a local school. So I took some of the gear that had been made, and the kids wanted to wear the gear. We talked about what is a design. We talked about the extreme environments and the weather events that they're experiencing. And we actually talked about space and what's the relationship to space. So my experience was a mix of being out in the community and then having time to stop and reflect and do my own work. There was also a desire to explore further on foot, but finding our way was probably one of the greatest challenges. So we had to talk to a lot of people to find paths and trails and learn from their own experiences. So we did sort of a community map making. And this was a situation where we did eventually find the trail, and it was a connecting trail to the Silk Road. So it really added a historical aspect. Continuing on this notion of how do you find your way once you're there, we ended up doing a design intervention. So often people are losing their way. There's so many trails. The weather can be quite extreme at times. And so we took inspiration from the local pine trees, which are actually an invasive species and the source of a lot of fires. And we developed these markers, which we called barkers. And we installed these as essentially design intervention to help people follow trails within the near environment. It really was a way for us to kind of also make a mark and to leave something behind that hopefully is of value. After the time in the hills, we made our way back by train. We then flew to Ahmedabad, where I had the opportunity to visit an institution I've long admired, the National Institute of Design. It's now about 65 years established, and Satil, the faculty member here, hosted us. He toured us around the workshops. We had the opportunity to see some of his teaching activities. We gave him a package gift on behalf of the global office. And I think this was probably one of my favorite days in the city. We had the opportunity to tour the campus. The library brought out many of their archives and some of the most remarkable works you can imagine. We also had the opportunity to meet with some of the students, and the students invited us to provide a crit. So these are master's students in systems design. They talked us through their understanding of space as a system And they were absolutely engaged, professional, and full of questions. And that was, again, probably one of the highlights of visiting the National Institute of Design. One of my interests was to get a sense of the learning environments in this school. And you can see, because this region, the Gujarati region, is predominantly a textile region, you see the importance of learning both hands-on alongside some of the digital technologies that Sahil is using. So the first year studio has these looms. It's all hands-on and an incredibly beautiful space. And the sound itself, I wish I had a recording of it. Sharing time with faculty over meals was also important. Also, I think there was a moment where being at the Gandhi ashram on the river and reading the words of Gandhi probably stayed with me because of its relevance. And its relevance right now even more so than anything. We had an opportunity, or I had an opportunity, to visit a few other institutions. This is CEPT, which is the Center for Environmental Planning and Technology. Again, you get a sense of how university learning spaces can be different in different environments. Here, there was a lot of indoor-outdoor learning. You also had these very architecturally significant buildings that become part of the identity and the experience for the students. I loved the detail in the concrete in this studio. Every room had its own measures, and every tree on campus was tagged with its history. Here we see some of the other architectural aspects that really were a highlight of the trip. This is a Le Corbusier building, for anyone who has understanding or exposure to design, a very significant designer. This is the Merchant Textile Building, and in this situation, we actually had over an hour of the building of time in the building just ourselves. It's taken over by the environment, and it's an incredible space. We also had a chance to visit some of the local studios to get a sense of the process of the cut to cloth, get a sense of the textile supply chains, and obviously a little bit of time to try things on. And that's my colleague that I've traveled with on the right, Barbara Imhoff from Austria. Overall, I think one of the aspects that really, really was a significant part of my interest was the environments itself. So on the left, you see a thermograph video of a step well, the Daharahi step well, which is a space that isn't for drawing water as a well. It is a gathering space, a social space for the community to come together because it's slightly cooler because of the cooling effects of the water body. Architecturally, absolutely beautifully preserved, and a remarkable space that you would never have an experience like this elsewhere. Which brings us to our final slide. The Himalayas were elusive. I watched and watched and watched, and they did peak out sometimes. We were just on the cusp of the Himalayas. And why this image I wanted to leave you with, it's this mix of this very on-the-ground micro experience of being in a different environment and the mobility aspect, and still having this grand perspective and keeping your sights on what might be possible in terms of how this experience feeds your inspiration forward and how it feeds the relationships internationally going forward. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Sue. We are now going to hear from Fabricio Telo.
Thanks,
Fabricio is a faculty member in the Department of Sociology at KPU. He completed his Master of Arts and PhD in Social Sciences at the Federal Rural University in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. As a member of Brazil's Peace and Truth Commission, Fabricio works on the history of the Brazilian military dictatorship of 1964 to 1985, advocating for reparations for its victims. In 2024, he received KPU's Chancellor's Chair Award to conduct a research project on the complicity of a Canadian corporation with that same dictatorship. Well, Fabricio, the audience is yours.
Thanks so much, Akia. And thanks for inviting me to share my experiences. So I'll talk about 5 different projects. And the reason for that is because when I joined KPU, one of the things that I proposed to share and contribute with was my experience as a Brazilian, because my training was from Brazil. So what I proposed to bring was global partnerships. So that's why I have these 5 projects. So the first one was through the GuardMe funding, and I went to Getúlio Vargas Foundation in Brazil, and that exchange was mainly focused on research and partnership building. So I conducted research at the archives that this university has there in Rio, and then I shared also the preliminary results of my research on the complicity between a Canadian corporation, Brookfield, with the military dictatorship of Brazil. And then I also conducted partnership building, and this picture evidences the partnership with Juliana Marques da Silva, who is the international representative. We signed an agreement with FGV in 2023. The next project is COIL. I know today that's not the focus, but I think it's an important thing to build partnerships without having to go to another country. So I conducted 2 COIL projects. The first was in 2022 in partnership with an FGV professor in contemporary sociological theory course. And you can see how the students they worked together to present work on COVID and the far right, etc. And then the second one was in 2025 in partnership with Professor Alessandra Gasparotto from the Federal University of Pelotas in southern Brazil, who is also part of my research team as a co-investigator, and she's also a member of the Peasant Truth Commission. So our topic was corporate complicity with military dictatorships. So now moving on to the third project, I will spend more time on this one, the ELAP, the Emerging Leaders in the Americas program, where I went to the Federal University of Southern Bahia, which you can see in the map, to build a partnership with both the university and a social movement called the Web of the Peoples, or Teia dos Povos, which is the organization that we are working with to do the field school that I'm going to talk about later. So this faculty mobility included partnership building as well. So this is a picture with the rector, which is equivalent to president of the university there, Professor Joana Angélica Guimarães Luz, and the international representative, Gabriel Nascimento. We also had a memorandum of understanding signed in July 2025. This partnership, this mobility also included teaching. So I co-taught a condensed course in the graduate program in science and sustainability. And it was a course focused on my research topic, which is transitional justice and the agrarian question and corporate accountability. So I was really happy to be able to do that with this very amazing class of students. And that also included a visit to a school of agroecology in the south of Bahia. They produce coffee, mainly coffee, in an agroecological way. So it was really nice to see the practice, the application of the theory of agroecology in practice. It also included participating in an evaluation committee of a student who was doing his PhD in another graduate program in State and Society in another campus, the campus of Porto Seguro. The teaching was in the campus of Teixeira de Freitas. It also included discussions or workshops with research centers. So this picture is about a round of discussions on memory and agrarian question at the Center for Documentation and Memory of Southern Bahia. They were on strike at that time, so that's why you can see behind Greve Geral, which means general strike. It was an interesting moment to be there. The most important part, I would say, of this trip was the partnership building with the Web of the Peoples, or Teia dos Povos in Portuguese. And this person with me is Mestre Joelson, or Master Joelson Oliveira, who is the founder of this movement. And it was one of the most important parts, I say, because I was able to learn a lot from him. This is another picture of the community where he lives, and we can see in the left the plants of cocoa, because they produce chocolate there. And then in the right, you can see their infrastructure to dry up the seeds and then later on manufacture the chocolate. You can see the flag of the landless movement on the right. The other component was partnership building with an indigenous community to also include in the itinerary for the field school. This is the Pataxó community near Porto Seguro. And the other two people on the left are two professors of UFSB, the Federal University of Southern Bahia, who built the bridge to for me to be able to visit this community. The trip also included other activities with other organizations. So this one is a meeting with the Association of Rural Lawyers of the state of Bahia, to explore the possibility of building a partnership with them as well for the field school. Unfortunately, the budget for the field school is limited, so we are not going to be able to visit Salvador, which is where they are based. But the activity was fruitful anyways. It also included a panel on dictatorship and peasantry in the University of State University of Feira de Santana, which is near Salvador. And this was really touching because we could hear from Conceição Borges, who is a leader, a community leader who went through a repression during the dictatorship. And then now moving on to the fourth project, the Amazon Field School. This is something I am not going to spend too much time on because it's something I joined when it was already in place. So I didn't participate in the planning and conceiving of this project, but it was certainly a transformative experience. And I encourage you to scan this QR code to read the testimonies of the students who participated in this field school. And finally, the most exciting part is the Brazil Field School, which is going to take place next semester. The dates are likely going to change for April 26, but that's a different story. The thing is that it's a partnership with the Faculty of Science, especially the Sustainable Agriculture program, with Dr. Alex Lyon, and it will focus on agroecology because that's the focus of the movement that we are working with, the Web of the Peoples. We were lucky enough to have 22 applicants, and unfortunately we had to select 18 because there will be no space for everyone, unfortunately. And the idea is to start in São Paulo and then spend 10 days in southern Bahia. apologies for running so quickly. It's just because I wanted to give an overview of all the projects, and then we can deepen into the specific questions during the Q&A. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Due to some technical issues, we have our next speaker on waiting. But thank you, Fabricio. This was a wonderful presentation. And I think looking all those pictures, looking at those, I was like literally amazed. Like, oh my God, this is like both Sue and Fabricio, you have opened our eyes to sections and societies and the work that we do and the impact that we see on ground, which is so, I would say, inspirational. I guess right now we can take some questions as we wait for Cindy to join. It seems like she's having some technical issues with signing in. So I guess, Ikuya, we can move on to the question session. And if Cindy joins in, we'll add her part as it comes. Okay, folks, so we have our Q&A session open here. And if you have any, okay, so we have a question right now here. So I will take the lead to read this one and followed by the question from Diego. Thank you. So the first question here is, in what ways did your time abroad influence what you share or do with your students in class? So I would repeat the question again. In what ways did your time abroad influence what you share or do with your students in the class? And maybe we can start with Sue and then Fabricio.
Thank you for the question. I think it came from Diego. It's a great question because I realized when working through my presentation that I had these stages that I went through, which was, anticipation and preparation, and then the mindset of observation and noticing, and then really trying to reflect. And all of that was really how it informs my research and my teaching in the design school. And I was fortunate enough to do that visit to the Himalayas before starting a new course in design, which is called New Extremes, and it's about future designing for climate adaptation. And one of the projects of that course is at the planetary scale. And so I actually spoke about the Himalayas as a very important water tower within the planetary water system. And I was able to share some of the observations, some of the realities that you see, the sequence or the complex interactions between invasive species, weather events, cloudbursts, development, all impacting on the villages. And it's very rare that you can bring that firsthand perspective into a classroom. And I think in this situation, it was the perfect way for me to bring a very real experience into a classroom moment. And my students and I discussed that quite deeply. There's lots of other examples, but I'll pass to Fabricio and just see if he wants to also expand on that question.
Sure. Thank you, Sue. Yes, one of the things that I have included in my teaching is what I learned from Mestre Joelson about the reason we work. He invited me to, and he does this reflection with everyone in a very philosophical way. He encourages people to think, why is exactly the reason we work? Is it because we agree with what we do, or is it just because we need to? And if it's because we need to, why is that? And are we putting some thought on what we do? This is one of the things that I kept with me and that I share with students. And as a consequence of that, that is why they focus a lot on agroecology in the way they produce food, and in their case, chocolate, because it is a way that so for those who are not familiar with what agroecology is, it's a way to produce food, it's a way to do agriculture that is both environmentally friendly and also aware of social justice issues like land democracy, gender equality, all of these things. And so they practice this idea of being aware of why we work, and one of the ways they do that is by producing food in an agroecological way, and that is why the focus of the field school is agroecology. That's why I went there in the first place, because the idea started when, well, this is probably another question, so I'll stop there.
I think we have Diego's hand up.
Yeah.
Diego, please, you can ask your question.
Yes. Thank you for this invitation. My name is Diego Martinez. I teach at the School of Horticulture. And just kind of congratulate both of the speakers on their work. Fabricio, I think it's great that you are connecting students with what's the meaning of agroecology. And in my case, I was on the other side for 13 years. I worked with an international program that I was actually hosting a connection with a university in the United States to bring students from agriculture from the University of Kentucky and Western Kentucky University down south to Ecuador, where I come from, to show the international agriculture class what is to do farming in South America and also in Ecuador, looking at the different production systems. So I'm really interested to know more about this and just understand how you managed to organize, Fabricio, this group. Is just students of the SUSTAG program, or do you have faculty going, or is also other people interested to learn more about agroecology, or how you handle this type of decision making on who's going there?
Great questions. Thank Diego. Yeah, I'm also interested in learning more about your work. Maybe we can go for coffee one day. So the way we organized the field school is it's part of a sociology course that is called Global Community Service. And that is open to any student that meets the prerequisites. So the prerequisites are Introduction to Society, which is the first year level course that we have in sociology, plus 45 credits from any other course. So the partnership with the Sustainable Agriculture Program was to make it interdisciplinary, to make this course interdisciplinary. And so it's not only for a specific group of students, it's for all students who are interested and meet the prerequisites. So that was the main criteria we used to select the 18 students.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I think I saw Antoine's hand up. If not, we have a question in the chat box. Antoine, would you want to ask your question?
Oh, I dropped it in the Q&A.
Okay. So, Antoine's question is, in what ways did your time abroad? That has been answered already.
The second one. Yeah, the second one.
We support students going on field schools. So I am curious about whether your trip changed your original plans for the Brazil field school. That would be for Fabricio.
Sorry, I can't see that question. Where is it?
I will paste it in the general chat.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, Honey has pasted it.
No, it didn't change. The goal of the trip through the ELAP fund was to build the partnership needed for the field school. And now I think it's a good moment to provide the context, because the idea for this field school started in 2023 when I was teaching a course on global inequalities. And the assignment I gave students was to do a research project on climate-related projects conducted by Global South organizations, so that we could learn from them. And the point about focusing on the Global South was to make the point that knowledge can also be constructed in the Global South, not only in the Global North, as the colonial mindset believes. So one group chose to do a project on the Web of the Peoples, and they interviewed Master Joelson. And during the interview, he invited the students to go there for an internship. And I was attending the interview as well. I was very excited with that invitation, and I thought, why not making that an opportunity for all students? So that's how the idea of the field school came up. And so that's why I applied for the ELAP to go to Bahia and visit the area, because I had never been there before. Get to know Master Joelson and the university there, because the Web of the Peoples has several projects in partnership with the university, the Federal University of Southern Bahia. Also, the university has lots of characteristics that are unique. For example, it's a very young university, and it was created with a mandate since its beginning to decolonize knowledge. So that's why they have lots of partnerships with civil society organizations, especially the Web of the Peoples, which is a network of grassroots organizations that include indigenous organizations, landless movements, and also movements of people who live in the peripheries of big cities. Yeah, I will stop there, otherwise I can't.
Thank you, Fabricio. For both Sue and Fabricio, we have another question from Ada. What similarities or differences did you notice between your host institution and ours? Now that's an amazing question. So whoever wants to go first, or maybe we can start with Sue then.
Sure. I think because Fabricio's had this opportunity to have these multiple experiences, it's so incredible. So I want to just briefly talk, and then I want to hear more about what you've been doing, because it's so fascinating. For me, there was multiple visits. So I spoke mainly to the one to the Himalayas and to the Gujarat region in India. I also went to Austria. I would say the similarities and the differences. They were quite distinct, because one is a specific design school. One was a specific technical program for the environment and planning and technology, so a very purpose-built environment. Both of those were older and established institutions and have very, very significant international reputations. So I was really there to learn from them and hear how they had achieved, and I could see how their reputation was so deeply established. I also saw the students engage in projects similar to what we would do here. So I could see the student activity similar, but the institutional identity was very, very deep. I would say the other similarity and difference was from the university I visited in Austria, that we both have work in the area of research and teaching in extreme environments. And there I did some panel work, and we did some projects together. Similar situation, because it has more of the Western university perspective. The distinct difference was being within a university where they're very technical, and they don't have all the arts programs, whereas Kwantlen has the substantial humanities and arts programs. So slight differences, but also some definite similarities. And that's something that I've reflected on in terms of kind of my teaching role back here.
Thanks, Sue. And thanks, Ada, for the question, because it allows me to continue what I was starting to share earlier about UFSB. The fact that the university was created as a result of mobilization of civil society organizations of the region, that makes a total difference, because the whole planning of how the university is structured and how academic governance is conducted and decision making works changes, because everything is done in with more participation from the civil society organizations around, the community organizations. The region is also a region where social movements are very active. So that changes the dynamic. It changes a lot. It makes students to be much more participative as well. And it makes faculty to be more accountable, because students are much more empowered to hold instructors accountable if they don't follow what they say that they are supposed to do. For example, decolonization. If you have decolonization as a principle, a core principle of your university, and your instructor uses colonial language, students will call you out. So that's a difference that I noticed, that instructors are much more, not that here they are not, but I noticed a very strong effort there to be more engaged in this effort for decolonization, not as a metaphor, but as a real thing in the decision-making processes, the language that is used, where money is invested on, etc., which is a completely different scenario when we compare with FGV. Not that FGV is colonial in all its senses, but FGV has a very different origin. It was created by the elites of Rio de Janeiro, which is the former capital of Brazil. So one rule that exists in FGV, for example, is that you're not allowed to get in with shorts. So that shows, for example, how they have different approaches. And now I think all of these things are things that we can learn from and try to incorporate here at KPU.
Thank you so much. Well, do we have any more questions from the attendees here? If not, then we'll just have our one final question here. Though we have two, so if you guys just want to take like quickly with those two, then it should be fine too. So any questions from here? Okay. So I'll just club these two.
There's one coming up.
Okay.
Aidan.
Okay, so here's our final question. What future opportunities do you hope will grow from this experience?
Do you want to go ahead, Sue?
Sure, I'll keep mine brief, because I think, again, yours will be more involved because there's already so much happening. With mine, with the visits I've done. So there's the potential of ongoing partnerships, and one partnership was signed with one of the institutions. It's predominantly also been feeding some collaborative research I'm doing and has tied into the teaching. In terms of future partnerships, it won't necessarily result in a field school. However, what it has probably resulted in, or an international or a global field school, is the development of a more locally relevant field school, and trying to really support what that might mean, more proximal to where we are. So that's one of the things that I'm currently trying to evaluate and reaching out to others right now.
Nice. So in my case, in addition to the field school that is already in the works, what I hope is that the students who go to the field school, they establish a strong connection with the organization and they keep that connection for the future. That is my hope, so that they can also start their own initiatives.
Thank you so much. Yeah, Ada has an update regarding Cindy.
Yeah, I just want to pass on a message from Cindy, who unfortunately got kicked off from her laptop. Apparently, there's a virus, so she's on the phone with IT, and unfortunately, she can't call back. And she wants to say she's very sorry she can't be there. I think she's quite disappointed. We were all looking forward to her slides, but one of the things is that we can also share her slides for the attendees here today. I can ask her to write out her narration so you won't miss out on the great experience that she also has. But I want to pass that she's sorry about what's going on, but that's it. I'll pass it back over to Honey and Kuya. Thank you.
Thank you, Ira. It's really unfortunate that we couldn't get to hear from Cindy. She really has an amazing experience. I was going through the pictures and they were like saying so many stories, but hey, we have all the luxury of time to go through them again and again. So we'll be sharing all the updates with you. So winding up our session here today, this is our second session of the Global Partnership Series, but we have more to come. And just for that matter, I would like to introduce you that our upcoming session of Global Partnership Series is with Academics Without Borders. So it is a Canadian charitable organization that supports higher education institutions in disadvantaged countries. So many faculty from our side have been showing their interest in volunteering. So for this session, we will be joined by the Associate Executive Director of the Projects and Network of AWB, Corey Young. So this is going to be an amazing session where he will share the experiences and also kind of, it's a different process compared to the other funded process, but this volunteering opportunity is something that most of us can take a worth note on. So this is going to be our next session, and I really want all here to stay tuned for more updates. We'll be getting, the process would be similar. You can find the recording of this session on our website. We'll be sharing the link of the website soon as well. So all of these things added up and waiting for our next session. I want to see all of you there joining us for this amazing session upcoming. And thank you for joining today. And Akuya, floor is yours.
I want to say a huge thank you to you all for spending your lunch hour with us. We appreciate the sacrifice that you've made, and we hope you're not leaving just as you came. You're well informed, you're excited, and you are encouraged to reach out to us so that we can collaborate with you in amazing faculty mobility opportunities. We want to say another thank you to our presenters for today. You have been amazing, and we hope to continue working with you for the next years as long as you are with KPU. Please reach out to us via our email address. And even if you have follow-up questions that could not be addressed here today or did not occur to you in the moment, you can send us emails and we'll connect you with the presenters for today. Until then, we say thank you and see you soon.
Thank you all. Take
Thanks,
care and have a
everyone.
good rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.